Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. Brian Winnekins from the NAFB convention in Kansas City. Thank you to our broadcast sponsors, including Alcivia Co-op, Annabis Silo, Animal Wellness Center, Buffalo Valley, Compeer Financial, Osteoplastics, Synergy Co-op, Amplify Health, Wisconsin Corn Growers Association, and Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board. Joining us right now is National Farmers Union President Rob Larew. Talk a little bit about some of the things going to be going on in D.C. After the election. And Rob, thanks for joining us. Well, a lot of changes coming down the line here in January. So Farm Bill is pretty much toast until next year.
Well, that may be, but we're still going to talk about it because, quite frankly, family farmers and ranchers can't afford not to get this Farm Bill done by the end of the year. We know that next year with the incoming president, the agenda is going to be packed. He's already said that he wants to make sure that he takes care of tax issues, that he has a big regulatory reform agenda going on. There are going to be lots and lots of conversations going out there. We need to get this Farm Bill off of the agenda, not only because it'll kind of get lost in the priority next year, it may also be much more expensive next year, and the needs are right now. So in spite of the fact that it is a massively heavy lift, we would argue, and I've been through a lot of farm bills, I would argue that there is still an opportunity here. If the senior leadership, we're talking about the Speaker of the House, we're talking about the Majority Leader in the Senate, if they, along with the Agriculture Committees, say we've got to get this done, if President-elect Trump says we need to get this Farm Bill done so that we can focus on other things next year, it is still possible to finish it.
One of the things with the Farm Bill potentially, because this is a situation that happened in Wisconsin, you're probably familiar with it, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, with Pure Prairie Poultry. They go belly up after getting some big grants and loans from USDA. They leave farmers in the lurch. Over 2-3 million chickens end up being euthanized. The farmers were just left holding the bag here. Big hole here in the livestock sector, and really not just for poultry, but if you look at hogs and even cattle, if they follow this same model where companies are just renting a barn, but if they go belly up, there's nothing for the farmers, and now they're left holding the bag. Is that something that has to be addressed in any farm bill, either now or down the road?
We know that a completely vertically integrated, monopolistic, concentrated food system is A, not resilient, B, is much more expensive long term, and is not in the best interest of certainly consumers, but not in the best interest of family farmers and ranchers. Trying to build that out and diversify that and build new market opportunities is the answer here. That said, anytime you have these big investments going in and trying to get this, there is a massive risk out there, and we've seen what that can mean and the impacts that it has directly. That's why we need to backstop that with making sure that we have the support there to make sure that family farmers are not ultimately on the hook for this. We've got to build out these markets. We have to make sure that we have a much more resilient food system. It's in everybody's best interest. So we've got to keep moving on that, but certainly whatever we can do to build in protections.
Talking with National Farmers Union President Rob Larew this morning as we had a chance to talk with him at the NAFB convention in Kansas City. Mentioned the Farm Bill, it's going to get more expensive. There's the Farm Act that's being proposed. It's a $21 billion bill. There's a lot of people, even on agriculture, that frankly say we've got to get spending under control. We got to get the debt under control. The new administration will say that. Okay, how do we pay for all of this then?
Absolutely. But I will always make the point that as we take a very close fiscal responsibility kind of lens, if you will, looking at the budget, looking at spending, we do have to look government-wide. You have some of the rhetoric around next year is about finding ways to cut $1 trillion out of the government, finding lots of ways to find savings. That's all well and good, but always remembering that the Farm Bill is what? Less than one half of 1% of the entire federal budget. So I don't want anyone to ever be under the illusion that our food supply, our food system production system, you are never going to be able to balance the budget on the backs of that food system. We know that a farm bill and that food production is about national security. It's critically important, so I'm never going to be about taking those protections away.
And that, but is that the fundamental problem though? Because everybody, I don't care if it's farmers, I don't care if it's someone living in town, whatever, they have something that they're getting from the federal government. They all say the same thing: national security. And if no one wants to ever feel some pain, former Senator Herb Kohl from Wisconsin back in '92 said everyone's going to have to feel some pain here. Everyone's going to have to take a cut in what they might be getting into. Everyone's going to have to pay some more. If everyone's not willing to feel some pain, isn't this just an exercise in futility?
Consumers and farmers are currently feeling pain. So I don't think there's any question that pain exists out there and that economic tough times in a lot of corners of agriculture exist today. So I don't want to dismiss that in any stretch. Your point's a fair one, and that is that it's got to start somewhere. And my only argument there would be that if we are taking a truly holistic, a whole of government look, we can be really potentially creative there. If our approach is to somehow cut on top of passing extensions of the $1 trillion plus tax cuts, that's not a way to balance your budget. So it's a huge, complicated mess that we're going to get into the weeds on next year. I think that because of that and because of this focus on fiscal policy, I would argue that that's another reason why the quicker we can get this farm bill wrapped up to address needs right now, the better.
Are you concerned about new tariffs coming down the line? Because frankly, that everyone's going to pay for that. And they've been shown that other countries can turn around and retaliate onto us. So it's not like this is a one-way street. Is there a concern on that coming up in 2025?
Yeah, well, obviously we're concerned. These markets have huge implications and pretty swift reactions sometimes that can hurt farmers and ranchers really quickly. And we saw that during the last China trade war. While we may have gained a little bit in terms of some reforms with the trading relationship, I think on balance, certainly agriculture really took it in the pants in spite of the payments that were issued out there. Those are markets that are going to be tough to reclaim into future years. That said, Farmers Union's policy certainly supports the use of tariffs, but we would argue you have to use it very judiciously and be very strategic and work with our allies around the world if you want to tackle a challenge like China.
That is Rob Larew. He is the president of the National Farmers Union from the NAFB convention. I'm Brian Winnekins. You're listening to WRDN.